वासुदेवेन्द्र योगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते. So last class we were discussing about the Mahavakya or the great equation. So in our Shastras, in our Upanishads, there are many Mahavakyas which describe the equation between the total and the individual. So we had looked at one such Mahavakya called Tattvamasi. Tat Tvam Asi. So Tat stands for the total, Tvam is the individual, and Tat is equal to Tvam. Thou art that. If you say in Latin, they say thou art that. So we had understood how when we look at it, it sounds very ridiculous that the total, or what we call as Ishvara or God, and me, a very small individual, how can we both be the same? How can I be Ishvara? So if you look at it from a general point of view, it looks ridiculous, but we had discussed how if you see, both are reflections of the same consciousness. Only if you remove the reflecting media, then both are the same. The bigger reflecting media is Ishvara, the smaller reflecting media is the individual. But both are reflections alone. They are not the source. So but if you remove that, the reflecting media, then both are the same consciousness. So this is what we had arrived at in the last class. Now with this, actually the teaching has ended. So whatever knowledge the author wanted to convey, that has been conveyed in the last verse itself. So we had started off with the first section, which was about the qualifications required for gaining self-knowledge. The second section was about the microcosm, where the individual was discussed. The third section was about the macrocosm, where the total was discussed, the Srishti, creation. And in the fourth section, the connection between the individual and the total. So the author has told whatever is to be told in terms of equating. The final equation is the individual is equal to the total. So in actual terms, with this, the teaching part or the knowledge part of the text is over. So the text is over with this last verse. Now we come to the final section. Final section is called Phalashruti. All our scriptures, you take any stotrams, even the stotrams or any text, at the end of it there is something called Phalashruti. You take Vishnu Sahasranam, you take Lalita Sahasranamam, or you take any other text also, there is a Phalashruti. Now, nobody will do anything unless you tell them what is the benefit of doing it. Otherwise, why should one do anything? So without, and the one who has made all this also knows, I only made these guys, so I know what they need. At the end of it, everybody wants to know what do I gain out of it. So in this last and final section, the author is going to tell us the benefits of this knowledge. So this will help us to take it up in a very serious manner, because only when we know the benefits, our efforts will be more to gain this knowledge. So the next verse, we will read. Evam cha Vedanta Vakyai Sadguru Rupa Deshena cha Sarveshvapi Bhuteshu Yesham Brahma Buddhi Utpanna Te Jivan Mukta Bhavanti. So this is what the author says, which we will try to understand in a little more in detail. Now, the knowledge that we have gained so far, how is it useful? This is what we are going to understand. Now this knowledge, whatever is being told, is very practical. It is not something you do and after death you will gain something and you will go to heaven or wherever you are promised, which sounds rather a little impractical. But here the knowledge is practical because you can actually get the benefit here and now. The knowledge is useful when you are alive, when you are still conscious. Anything after death is only a promise. Nobody has come back after death and said, oh, yes, all that was promised, I got it. So we should understand that this is a very practical knowledge, and it sort of changes our perspective to life. Once we orient ourselves towards this knowledge, all our day-to-day things also, we will find that the way we look at things change. It becomes better. The more we understand this knowledge, the easier it is for us to solve any problems that we come across in day-to-day situations. And there are plenty of problems. Every day is a challenge. But with this knowledge, if we proceed, it becomes much easier for us to handle this. So that is the first benefit. And ultimately, what you gain out of this is freedom or moksha. As we had understood, the ultimate goal is called moksha. Moksha means freedom. So, with this knowledge, you can proceed towards that goal of moksha. But there are certain conditions. This knowledge should not be gained through self-study. That is what the author is trying to say. Because if we study on our own, there are bound to be a lot of confusions, and we may end up getting negative benefits rather than positive ones. So it is very essential that we should not do self-study. Now, from whom you should study is the right shastras through the right teacher. So that is important. The one who follows the shastras, who is a traditional teacher, as we had already earlier explained, a traditional teacher who follows the shastras, because there is a systematic way of teaching. It is called sampradaya. So the methodology of teaching is followed from one teacher to another. It is handed over. So there is a system which is followed. It is not just a blind way of learning. There is you can see in all our Vedic texts also, there is a particular system. Even Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also follows a systematic way. Otherwise, the knowledge will not reach in the proper way. And if the knowledge doesn't reach the proper way, it can be misused or misinterpreted. Like what is happening today, people take a little bit from here and there and blow it up and say this is what is given in the scriptures without understanding the total. That is why it says you should not do self-study. Like we were discussing, there are people who are saying I have studied Sanatana Dharma and I have studied this, I have studied that. Under whom did they study? Did that person have any qualifications to teach? In fact, it becomes dangerous when somebody does self-study because they take only what is convenient to them. So that is why it is very important scriptures or our Shastras should be studied only under a teacher who himself is a traditional teacher following a particular lineage. That's why even in our beginning prayer we start with Lord Shiva, who is the original teacher, Sadashiva Samarambham. So he is the original teacher. Down the line Shankaracharya Madhyamam. So somewhere down the line, because we don't know who are the other teachers, it is not possible for us to remember all the teachers in the lineage. So somewhere down the line Adi Shankara came, and from there down the line so many other teachers, and finally our teacher. So this is the teaching tradition which has been followed. So when it comes from the source, when the original teacher is the very source, Lord Shiva, and there is a methodology of teaching followed, there is no chance of any confusion. The right teaching will be given. So that is why he says, only if you follow that, then you get this benefit. So when you follow this particular way of teaching, then the knowledge will happen. The knowledge will arise in you. So without this, the right knowledge will not be available. And once this knowledge has been assimilated by anybody, he becomes a Jivan Mukta. So that is the ultimate benefit of this teaching. You become a Jivan Mukta. The next question is, who is a Jivan Mukta, which is in fact the next question. But basically you are looking at freedom. Freedom from all kinds of insecurities and unhappiness. The basic fear everybody has is the fear of death. All, including even the animals, are always driven by this fear of death. So all of us, the basic fear is always the fear of death. What will happen to me? What will happen if I die? Who will take care of everything? So there is a deep sense of insecurity in all of us because of this fear of death. Once you, and there are so many types of fear. In fact, in one of the movies, Kamala Hassan tells us the various types of Indabhayam, Andabhayam, Andabhayam. So, which is all true. Each one is driven by a fear. All of us have our own fears, but everybody has got the fear of death. We may have some fears or not, but everybody has got the fear of death. So how to overcome this fear is what knowledge is going to tell you. And once you attain this knowledge, you are free from all kinds of fear. There is nothing to fear about. Because when you know that you are the total, You are the very thing that you are looking for. So there is no need to fear anything. So basically, freedom. So we call this as samsara. All these fears put together, it is called as samsara. So freedom from this samsara is what everybody is ultimately looking for. Though we may not understand it, because we don't know, most of us don't know what we are looking for. So we are looking for all kinds of material things which we feel will give us security. So everybody is looking for more money, feeling that money can give me security. You look for security from your children, you look for security from your property and so many other things, which ultimately it is like leaning on a cardboard chair. You feel you are insecure, you are secure with that, but after all it's cardboard, it's going to collapse. So ultimately it's knowledge of the self which is going to give you that permanent security and release you from this insecurity completely. So one who has got this is called as a Jivan Mukta. Now the next question is, who is a Jivan Mukta? That is what he says. Nanu Jivana Muktaha Kaha. So the answer the author gives is, Yata Dehoham Purushoham Brahmanoham Shudroham Asmiti Dridha Nishchayastatha Naham Brahmano Na Shudro Na Purushaha Kintvat Sangaha Satchidananda Swarupaha Prakasha Rupaha Sarvantarayami Chidakasha Ruposmi Iti Dridha Nishchaya Rupa Aproksha Jnanavan Jivana Muktaha. So this is what the author defines as a Jivana Mukta. Who is a Jivana Mukta? What are his qualities? So there is one word he uses, the one who has Aproksha Jnanam. He is a Jivana Mukta. Now what is Aproksha Jnanam? So basically there are three types of knowledge or Jnanam. One is the knowledge of all that we experience, the objects around us, which we can see, we experience. So we have knowledge of that. The next is Proksha Jnanam, or the knowledge of things which are far off, but say the planets or galaxies, which we cannot experience. They are so far away we cannot see them. Some of those planets we can see probably at some time through a telescope or whatever instruments we have, but we cannot experience them. But through various sources we are able to gain knowledge of such things also. So that is called as Proksha Jnanam. So one is Pratyaksha Jnanam, where it is directly available. So you have knowledge of a book or the knowledge of a phone, whatever you see around, because you see, you experience that also. So that is Pratyaksha Jnanam. Proksha Jnanam is the knowledge of things which are far off, which can be only through estimation and through various sources we are able to gain knowledge of that, because we cannot see or experience that. Here he is talking about Aproksha Jnanam, which is the third Jnanam, which is neither far nor near. In fact, the other two are object related. There is an object of which you have knowledge. You are the subject, you are gaining knowledge of the object. But here in Aproksha Jnanam, the subject itself is the object. So you yourself are the subject and object. So that is what is called Aproksha Jnanam, the knowledge of the very closest So this knowledge one who possesses is a Jivan Mukta. Now, how does one become a Jivan Mukta? The one who is a Jivan Mukta has a firm conviction in this knowledge that there is no difference between me and the total. So Tattvamasi, he has no doubt that he is Tattvamasi. Without that, he cannot be a Jivan Mukta. So there should not be even a semblance of doubt in him that there is no difference between him and the total. Like in our Puranas, we have heard of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada. So when Hiranyakashipu asked, where is God? He said, is he here? Is he there? Yes, yes, even in this pillar he is there. So when he broke the pillar, the Lord appeared in Narasimha form. But the conviction that Prahlada had, that Lord is there in everything that you see, is what came out finally. If Prahlada had even a little bit of doubt, will there be a Lord inside this pillar? Narasimha would not have appeared. So that kind of conviction is what is required. I am that Satchidananda Swarupa. Satchit Ananda Swarupa. I am the very consciousness, happiness that everybody is looking for. That is me. So that is the kind of conviction a Jivan Mukta has. Any lesser conviction, he cannot be a Jivan Mukta. And he further says, it is like others having a firm conviction that they are not. Like somebody thinks, I am a Brahmin, or I am a Kshatriya. He is very convinced that he is that. So his conviction is very firm. So a Jivan Mukta's conviction is very firm that he is not all that. So a Jivan Mukta thinks this body is just a medium for me to exist. I am not the body. So by saying this, he also distances himself by being anything that is associated with the body. So whether you are a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra doesn't matter to him. Because all these are related to the body-mind complex. Once you gain the knowledge, and that too a firm knowledge that you are neither a Brahmin, nor a Kshatriya, nor a Vaishya or a Shudra, you are the total, you are the very consciousness itself, then you become a Jivan Mukta. So a Jivan Mukta means there's another term which we use which is called Videha Mukta. Jivan Mukta is firm knowledge that you are the total. Videha Mukti you attain after death, which ensures that you don't get into another body. So that is the result. Videha Mukti is the result. Jivan Mukta is one who lives knowing that he is the total. As long as he is alive, he is free. He is free from this bondage of all the things that are, all the insecurities, everything, the knowledge of the bondage of samsara. He is free from that. And after death, he gets Videha Mukti. That means he will not be born in any form. He continues to remain as a total energy, as the total consciousness. He doesn't attain any form, which happens if you are not a Jivan Mukta. So you continue. If you don't get Jivan Mukti, you again continue through the cycle of birth and death. You keep on repeating, coming and going in different forms. How a Jivan Mukta is, you can again see through some examples. One is the example of a string of beads. Now if you look at a string of beads, the string is not visible, but all the beads are connected with the string. The string goes through all the beads, but it is not part of the bead. There is no connection between the bead and the string. The string only holds everything together, but strictly speaking, there is no connection between the string and the bead. We can also take the example of light as well as space. Space accommodates everything. There is no limit. You cannot cut space. Whatever is accommodated in space is not part of the space. There is no blemish in the space. You cannot pollute space. Whatever is polluted is only the things which are in the space, but space by itself is not polluted. Similarly, light. Light is limitless like space. If you limit it to a room also, the entire room is lit by that light. The light cannot be cut. The light cannot be divided. The light continues to exist even after there is nothing in the room. So that is what is the ultimate knowledge, that the consciousness cannot be, the consciousness never dies, and you are that very consciousness. Once you get that firm knowledge of this, you become a Jivan Mukta. And once you become a Jivan Mukta, automatically it leads to Videha Mukti. You don't get. There is one more Mukti called Krama Mukti, where they say you attain Brahma Loka. You have some little doubts, so you don't get immediately, you don't get Videha Mukti, but you are taken to Brahma Loka, where Brahmaji himself gives you the knowledge. So that is called Krama Mukti. So that is another way of getting freedom through direct teaching from Brahmaji. So this is what is the definition of a Jivan Mukta. Now, ultimately, the next, what this all leads to, Brahma vai Vahama Asmi Tya Paroksha Jnanena Nikhila Karma Bandha Vinirmuktiha Syat. So by having this knowledge, what happens after the death? So the next question is, what happens to this Jivan Mukta after death? So the author says he is released from all kinds of karmas. The bondages of all the karmas are released. Because the karmas are what give you the next birth. You go through different forms, you go through different, because of your karmas. So when you become a Jivan Mukta, you are released from all the karmas. So there is nothing left for you to come back. So this is what is the ultimate result of this knowledge. So you attain Jivan Mukti, and through Jivan Mukti, at the time of death, all your karmas are exhausted or burnt away. There's nothing left, because karmas are the seed for the next birth. So if there is no karma, if there is no seed, automatically there is no birth. So this is the ultimate result of this knowledge. Now finally, what are these karmas from which you are getting released? So the author will tell us about the karma theory, which we have already seen as a separate subject earlier, but here in fact that was taken from this text only. So we will understand the different types of karmas which are there, from which you will get mukti once you attain this knowledge. So that we will see. Again we will revise the karma theory in the next class. So the text is finally going to end with a few more verses. So we will conclude this session with this, and we will revise our karma theory in the next class.